Toyota. Visit your local Toyota dealer today. Toyota, let's go places. Now, here is your host, the voice of the Tide, Eli Gold.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Orlando, Florida. We are live from the Renaissance SeaWorld Hotel for the Crimson Tide's Citrus Bowl preview show presented by Toyota. I'm Eli Gold, joined by our normal crew on the broadcast. To my immediate right, John Parker Wilson, and to his right, Rashad Johnson. Good to see you, fellas. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. It's been too long, guys.
Yeah, it's been way We've had withdrawal symptoms. Did Santa Claus find you both?
Santa Claus definitely found my house. My little girl had a great Christmas.
Wonderful.
What about yourself, Eli?
Yes, I got my normal lump of coal, so everything.
You were naughty.
Everything is fine. And how about yourself, JP?
Santa made his way. We were down here in Florida, so Santa found us in Florida for our two little guys. It was fun, and it's always good to be down here in Florida. The weather's pretty nice this time of year down here. It is
very, very nice down here. Coach Saban will be joining us in about 30 minutes from right now, so we invite you to stick around for that. Others are going to be milling by and stopping in to say hello. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is the same one we use on all of our talk shows, 877-202-BAMA. 877-202-BAMA. That is the Academy Sports and Outdoors hotline. So, Alabama getting to work against the University of Michigan, and obviously this is not the playoffs. We all understand that. But in listening and reading and consulting the different broadcast outlets and so on, they are saying that this game of the non-playoff games will be the most watched in all of America. I'm not surprised when you get two teams with the cachet of Alabama and Michigan together. It does attract viewership.
It definitely does. Like you said, with Alabama being the prominent team that we've been for years, our legacy that we've had as a football program, Michigan as well. And then you're bringing in the two names, Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh, great coaches of the past and everything they've done throughout their history. And then, the teams as well. Shea Patterson, great quarterback.
Yep.
We have him Mac.
I'm sure he left Ole Miss so he didn't have to see the Alabama defense come calling all the time. And now here he is up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he's facing the Alabama defense.
He really is. And a different look for him and this Alabama defense than he's seen in the Big Ten. But here we come back full circle from the Ole Miss days. Back to him now in Michigan. I love this matchup. Two just old school teams matching them against each other. Michigan with a really good defense. Alabama, obviously, one of the best offenses in the entire country. I think it's going to be a good old school matchup with some new school wrinkles in the offense.
And it's only the fifth time these two schools have met. So, yes, they love playing each other, but it's not a true rivalry. You don't see the Wolverines enough for it to be a rivalry, but 4 meetings, each team has won 2, so it is there is something special about this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it's something special with that. They've met 5 times, 2-2. This is going to be an opportunity to break that record, see who's going to be the team on top. But like we said, it's going to be old school. I mean, I played against Jim Harbaugh when he was with the San Francisco 49ers, a little similar with what he does with the Michigan Wolverines. He's going to come out and run the football. He's going to try and demand that dominance and set the identity as his team. And we all know the Alabama Crimson Tide, that's our mantra. We set our identity, we win up front. So I think it's going to be, a tale of the same tapes and seeing which team can be the most disciplined up front and being able to stop the run and control the line of scrimmage.
When we come back, John Parker Wilson, Rashad Johnson, and I will talk about the season just passed and look ahead to this week's game. That and a whole lot more. And again, we'd love to hear from you toll free, 877-202-BAMA. That is the Academy Sports and Outdoors hotline. You're listening to the Citrus Bowl preview show presented by Toyota, live from the Renaissance SeaWorld Hotel in Orlando, Florida, right here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Welcome back, everybody, as we continue on the Citrus Bowl preview show presented by Toyota. Eli Gold, John Parker Wilson, Rashad Johnson. Coach Saban joins us here in about 20 minutes or so. So what has gotten us to where we are here today? 10-2 on the year, 7-2 in the conference, set to meet the 17th ranked Michigan Wolverines. Let's take a listen back to some of the special moments from this season just concluded.
Now a look back at the 2019 football season on the Crimson Tide Sports Network.
Throws wide open, Forrestall, the tight end of the 10. He's down the left side, 5. He'll power in. Touchdown, Alabama. Near side, Henry's got it. Up the near side. He's to the 40. He's to the 50. He's going all the way. Maybe 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, 75 yards. Throws Najee. First down. He'll accelerate. He'll cut inside the defender. Then leaves him in his wake at the 30. Hurdles over a man at the 15. And he will take it in for a touchdown. Oh, my goodness. One of the plays of the year. Quarterback throws it up for grabs. Right side, a 50-50. It's intercepted over the shoulder by Trayvon Diggs. Throws long, end zone. Devontae. Touchdown, Alabama. Devontae Smith. What a day he is having. The punt is blocked. They took too much time. Ali Cajo will cover it in the end zone. Touchdown. Ali Cajo blocks the punt and then covers it in the end zone for a touchdown. Near side Waddle gets outside. Down the near sideline. First down 20. Inside his defender 10. 5. Touchdown Alabama. Tua to Jalen Waddle. A beauty. The ball comes loose. Taken by Alabama. Taken by Trayvon Diggs. He's going to run it all the way down. Trayvon to the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown! 99 yards. Here's the quarterback looking, trying to find anybody. It's picked off by Alabama. Trayvon Diggs down the left sideline. Touchdown, Alabama. Sails to the 22. He'll make the grab. He is being caught, but he gets away. He'll circle to the near side 20. Up the left side 30. Up the left sideline 40. He cuts inside at the 45-40. Down to the 30. He's got escorts. He'll angle to the right side to the 5. To the 2. To the 1. Touchdown! Jalen Waddle. It'll be 78 yards. And how in the world he ever got away from the first man who had him dead to rights all the way back around the 20, I will never know. But he did. And Bama's on the board with a huge return from Jalen Waddle for the touchdown. From the 1 to the 5. Cuts left at the 10. Stays left at the 15. Up the middle 20. He'll cut to the outside 25-30. He gets outside the contain. Down the left sideline. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown Alabama. 99 yards on the kickoff return by one of America's most impressive kick and punt returners, Jalen Waddle. Touchdown Alabama.
From Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida, it's Alabama, the Crimson Tide, versus Michigan, the Wolverines. This is the Citrus Bowl.
Indeed, that is what has led us to the Citrus Bowl. I'll tell you, I don't know, there have been so many guys who are MVPs this year, whether it's on the season-long basis, on an individual game basis. What we've seen from Waddle, both on the return and the pass-catching game, what we've seen from Devontae Smith, what has amazed you? What is, I don't want to use the word surprised, because these guys are all good, but what really caught your attention this year, Rashad?
I'll have to say Jalen Waddle. I mean, he was so electric, and as the season went on, he just continued to get better and better. It seems like every time he touched the ball, he was taking it to the house, whether it was a punt return, reception. He was just tremendously special. He was as a freshman as well, but this year it just seems like he just took advantage, and the odds were in his favor when he touched it. And he was just a really special player, and I know a guy that we probably won't mention. I want to mention him as well, but Xavier McKinney.
Yes,
I mean,
has had a great season.
He was the guy that played last year for us, but this year really took on that leadership role. I mean, he leads the team with 85 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. I mean, he's been all over the field. So he's been a guy that, I'm not say surprised us, but really has been like, wow, this guy, it really clicked and it looked special.
Yeah, a couple of touchdown returns on those intercepts. He had a block against Western Carolina.
Yeah.
How about high on your list, John Parker?
Well, especially Xavier McKinney. I don't think we can talk enough about him, the role that he played, like Rashad said, leading the team in tackles, but really when we had the injuries early on in the season, he really stepped up and became the leader of the defense that we needed, right? Dylan Moses was the guy, middle linebacker is usually the quarterback of the defense, and here we are week 1 of the season with nobody there to play. And I think Christian Harris and Shane Lee both did a fantastic job as true freshmen.
Yeah.
But Xavier McKinney driving them, I think, really hit home. But then on the offensive side of the ball, Jalen Waddle is unbelievable. But for me, it was the way that the guys really played together, right?
Yep.
We had 4 receivers now over 1,000 yards apiece. And every time it looked like a guy caught the ball, all 3 of the other receivers were running down there, high-fiving them, really enjoying each other, having success in the team scoring points.
And, of course, Najee ran for better than 1,000 yards, which, by the way, reminds me, congratulations are due to Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
He becomes the NFL's rushing leader. Yesterday won the NFL rush championship with a spectacular day yesterday.
211 yards.
211 yards.
Good way to close it out.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's not. You know, it reminds you, Sean Alexander, of course, did the same thing when he was with the Seahawks, won the NFL rushing lead championship. And that's nice to see when Bama guys excel like that.
Yeah, very nice to see. Like you said, when you see those guys excel, and, not only him, 1,000-yard rusher and Mark Ingram, 1,000 yards and Josh Jacobs.
Exactly.
We have a lot of guys that have done great things in that backfield, and it's great to see that. And, I mean, a lot of that is due to what we do during the week and how we see them perform on Saturdays.
Sure.
A lot of the program and the process is preparing us for that.
And it's amazing. You hear that all the time when these coaches say, well, when a guy comes out of Alabama, you know what you're getting. You're getting a guy who is ready for the National Football League.
Well, the numbers show it. Right now, Alabama has more draft picks over the past 11 drafts with 87 than any other college team in the nation.
Yeah.
29 of those have been in the first round, and 45 have gone in the first 2 rounds. So truly remarkable numbers that Coach Saban's putting out.
We're going to come right back as we are live tonight here at the Renaissance SeaWorld Hotel in Orlando, Florida. It's our show prior to this week's Citrus Bowl. We're going to be coming back with Coach Saban here in about 15 minutes. And again, your phone calls are welcome at 877-202-BAMA. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. So first down now from the 20-yard line of Southern Miss. Tua claps in the shotgun. Fakes, throws across the middle. Judy reaches down to his knees, makes the grab. Touchdown, beating Ty Williams at the goal line. What a play as Judy had to reach down, pulls down the low throw, then lunges in for a 20-yard touchdown, and Alabama is now on top 34-7. Not just a catch, but a very difficult catch to make in that instance. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, Bama fans, you can stay up to date with all the latest on the Crimson Tide by tuning into Tide TV this week, presented by Renaissance Bank. Check your local listings for the air times in your area or watch on demand at rolltide.com. With John Parker Wilson and Rashad Johnson, I'm Eli Gold. Coach Saban joins us here shortly. Let's talk about quarterback Mac Jones. And both of you fellas, we saw him have his career bests, obviously, in the season finale, throwing for some 335 yards, 4 touchdowns against Auburn, ran for 32 yards. From a quarterback standpoint first, John Parker Wilson, how have you seen and what have you noted and what do you like in the development of Mac Jones?
I like a lot about him. To me, he's in his third year, so redshirt sophomore year behind Tua and Jalen last year, and then this year, obviously the backup behind Tua Tagovailoa. But I think the whole time, one thing we always said was he goes about his business the right way. He goes to practice, he works hard, he's got a good mentality, and I think it showed up when he got his opportunity to go play. And then you go on your first road start, your only third start of your entire career on the road against Auburn, and Auburn had a fantastic defense, and go out and throw 4 touchdowns. And to me, the biggest thing about his performance in that game wasn't the 335 yards or the 4 touchdowns. It was the 2 interceptions because it was the way he came back from those interceptions. I mean, pick sixes are tough for a quarterback to live through. Trust me, I threw my fair share. But for him to bounce back like that, keep his team in the game, and end up putting 45 points on the board, I think it shows you a lot about his preparation and his just mindset going into that game.
And from another perspective, let's talk to a defensive back, Rashad Johnson. You are a DB, of course, both collegiately and in the National Football League. What do you, with your defensive back's eyes, see as to the development of Mac Jones?
I mean, when you watch him and see him develop, one thing that you notice as a defensive back when you're watching a quarterback is, can he make all the throws? Mm-hmm. He can do that. He clearly can do it. If you watch him in the Auburn game, the throw against Jalen Waddle on the 7 route, he drops the opposite hash. I mean, he throws the ball anticipation before he comes out of the route, and he puts it right on the money in the front corner of that end zone. And I think also the big thing you also want to see is how do they respond to adversity. That definitely defines a quarterback, and not only a quarterback, but a football player. And like John Parker said, you know, those 4 touchdowns were impressive. The 335 against Auburn was impressive. But the 2 interceptions, you know, as a DB, you see, you know, a guy throw a pick 6. You're thinking, okay, we're about to have a day. We're about to have an opportunity to do some things. But watch him respond. He responded, and he came back and threw 2 touchdowns the following drives after throwing interceptions. Man, that tells me that he has the heart, he has the confidence, and he's going to be a really, really special player. So I really like all that about him. His footwork as well. Late in that game, it was a 4th down, a 3rd down that he made with his feet.
Yes.
So his decision-making, you know, as well, you know, in those critical moments. So Mac Jones is a great quarterback, and those are the things that I see in him that make him very special.
Tell me something that's not unique to Alabama, but the team's been off for a month. When I say off, they haven't had a game in a month. They've been on the practice field. How tough, you've seen every practice, Rashad, how tough to knock the rust off over the course of a month since your last game?
Yeah, I mean, you get an opportunity to knock the rust off, but you also get an opportunity to work on the things, you know, throughout the season that you saw that we need to work on. We get back to the fundamentals. Because when you plan during the week, you got to understand, you know, we may play Arkansas this week, then we turn around and play Ole Miss next week. So we're game planning, preparing. We're working on the fundamentals during the week, but now we actually get a time to do it a lot longer. You know, get back to the basics of what drives this team, being able to play with your hands, playing with great eyes, you know, technique. I have outside leverage, understanding my responsibilities. And also you get a chance to look at young guys, you know, during this time. Guys that haven't had an opportunity to play much for you. You get a chance to evaluate and look at your team and see where they are moving forward. So it's tough to knock the rust off because you go home, and as we all know, during, you know, Christmas holiday, we eat very good. You know, we get that dressing and cranberry sauce and turkey. And
some of us don't even wait for the Christmas holiday. Yeah, I know.
There's nothing wrong with that. Let's enjoy it. But, you know, you get that opportunity and you come back here to a great bowl site like this. Early in the week, you see the guys, you know, just getting their win back, and then you see them finish off as sharp as they did today. I'm really excited to watch them get after it.
But I think you're right, though. There is rust coming back.
For sure.
Because it's been a month since we've played a football game. And you come in here, and it's great. We're going to Disney World, and everything else is down here.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden at noon on Wednesday, you kick off, and there's no going back to the well or going back and watching more film. You're there to play, and there's no turning back. So you got to get ready. And now, they're kind of getting into their normal routine,
Exactly,
like you would during a typical week. But as a player, we're so routine oriented that this kind of messes you up a little bit. And it's the good teams that can get back into it. It's experienced teams with leadership that can come out and show up at noon o'clock to play.
Again, if you're just joining us, we are live in Orlando, Florida. The Renaissance SeaWorld Hotel. The Crimson Tide Citrus Bowl preview show is presented by Toyota. The coach joins us in about 10 minutes from right now, so don't you go away. But first, we break for these messages here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. You never know who you'll find walking through the hallways of a hotel. We're joined now by a man who won the BCS National Championship for Bama, the MVP of the 2009 SEC Championship game, and as my broadcast partner quickly noted, he also was a backup to John Parker Wilson.
That's right.
Greg McElroy, good to see you. How are you, man?
Good to see you guys. What's happening?
We're doing fine. It's great to see you on board and Dave Pash doing the telecast this weekend. I'm sure for you it's always nice to see Bama.
It's when we found out, we were kind of angling. I was texting with Greg Byrne and like, hey, where do you guys think you're going to be? I think we're going to be at Citrus. And I'm like, you guys think you're going to be there? And he's like, maybe, possibly, it could be between these. So secretly, I was like, oh, please, please, please be Bama. And then to find out it was Michigan on the other side, I was like, man, what a great matchup.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we are really, really excited. And, of course, anytime you get to call your team, it's always a lot of fun.
The coach will be here in just a few moments. We've only got a quick visit. Give me your thoughts on this matchup, because as we were talking before you got here, I don't care what you're playing in. If it's Alabama and Michigan, you're going to catch the eyeballs of America.
Yeah, I think the casual audience will be tuning in.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. And I'm really excited to see two teams that obviously it didn't end the way any of us wanted it to end, naturally, as fans of Alabama. And speaking on their behalf, the way Michigan finished up against Ohio State, I feel like both teams are coming into this game really thinking about next year and knowing that this can be a huge, huge momentum-building type of performance like it was for us when we played in this game in 2011. Yeah. how that kind of propelled the offseason and the momentum for what came in 2011 and 12. So it's a really important game, I think, and a fun one, I think, for both teams to be a part of.
Yeah, exactly right. Greg, wait, from an Alabama fan, though, how hard is it to call a team
Terrible
from your own team, right?
So
it's got to be
funny.
tough.
I remember,
got to be unbiased, right?
Yeah, it's hard because I've told Miss Terry this, actually, and it's so good to see you as always. The first time I had to call an Alabama game was the spring game. In that particular case, it's really okay to say we, us, our,
sure,
etc.
Yeah.
It's a little bit less okay to do that when you're playing Mississippi State, and I did it twice. But I figured twice is not that bad. The over-under amongst our crew was at 3.5, so I felt like I was pretty good. I actually won on that one. So I've been able to use the term Alabama much better than I have us, but it's still, when I'm amongst my buddies, it's still
it doesn't leave
us.
you, right?
No, it
never
never leaves you.
We've been talking about Mac Jones before you got here. Let's hear from yet another set of eyes as a former quarterback. What have you seen from the Bama QB?
It's amazing just to think of the situation he was thrust into and the shoes of the person he had to replace. And I thought he did everything you could have possibly wanted and some against Auburn. He made a bad mistake or two, but gosh, who didn't, JP, in our first game? I threw an interception to a D tackle in my first game. So I don't know how you do that. But I think he did an incredible job of handling the circumstances, first difficult atmosphere, first difficult environment. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do now with an extended set of practices as the number one quarterback facing against Alabama's defense. And I would expect probably his best performance today if I were to imagine.
Hopefully so. Listen, it's great to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Wish we had more time, but the coach will be here in just a moment. But thanks, Greg. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jim.
Greg McElroy joining us. The coach is up next right here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Off season. They are two of the proudest, most renowned football programs in America, the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Michigan Wolverines. Early season, mid-season, postseason, it matters not when they meet. When the Crimson and White join the Maize and Blue on the gridiron, the eyes of the nation's football fans are automatically zeroed in. This week is no exception, as Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh lead their teams into battle. Alabama and Michigan take center stage on tonight's Citrus Bowl preview show, presented by Toyota, live from the Renaissance Resort and Hotel at SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida.
1, 2, 3. Mac Jones rolls right, sets himself, throws into the end zone. Touchdown on the back line of the end zone. Henry runs the third.
Live from the Renaissance Resort and Hotel at SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida, on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. From Learfield IMG College, this is the Citrus Bowl Preview Show, presented by Toyota. Now, with head coach Nick Saban, once again, Eli Gold.
Welcome back, everybody, as we continue from the Bama Team Hotel. We are live here at the Renaissance SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. We have made a bit of a roster change up here. Rashad Johnson said, heck, let's have Greg McElroy stick around. I'm going to go and spend some time with the family. So Greg is here. John Parker Wilson is here. And joining us now for the rest of this program, Coach Nick Saban. Good to see you, sir. How you doing?
Doing great. How's everybody else out there?
Everybody's good. A nice lively crowd joining us.
Good to have Greg here, huh?
Isn't it nice?
Last time we were here, he was here, if I remember
Yes.
right.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true.
That's right.
Exactly.
Been a couple years.
Yeah. You have been blessed. I mean, this guy next to me here left Alabama. Speaking of John Parker Wilson, left Alabama with every significant quarterbacking record and is still number 2 in all-time passing yards. You got an MVP of a championship game next to you, a guy who won the BCS National Championship. You have been blessed with some successes in recruiting that have brought this kind of talent to Bama.
Well, I learned a long time ago when I first started doing this, it's really hard to coach bad players to play good. So
Yeah.
I just said, let's go get some good players.
There you go. It's very simple.
We've been really fortunate from that standpoint, that's for sure, and these guys both did a great job for us.
Let's talk about that. We have a guy up here who was originally going to Texas Tech, then changed to the University of Alabama. Greg McElroy, how difficult is it, or how easy is it for players to finally settle on where they're going to play their collegiate football?
It's a lot easier when you have the offer from the place you wanted to play college football. That took a little longer for me than it does most. Thanks, Tim, for going to Florida, and also grateful for the circumstances that I was afforded upon Coach Saban's arrival and having that opportunity a few years down the road.
Sure. JP?
For me, you know, it was a quick decision for me. Growing up in Alabama, getting a chance to come play at Alabama was unbelievable. And then to see the way Coach Saban has kept that recruiting going. We just had a huge early signing period. It was very successful. I know we got one more going on, but the tradition obviously continues with Coach Saban. It's been quite remarkable to get these good players year in. We just talked about before you got here, Coach, how many draft players we have since you've been here, setting the standard. I mean, number 1 in the NFL right now coming from Alabama. So the run has been truly remarkable.
Well, it has, and I think we've been fortunate because we have a great team at Alabama in terms of how we try to create value for our players so that they have a better chance to be successful in life because they were involved in the program, and that starts with our administration and how they support the program, the support that we get in the university community to help our guys graduate so they can affect the quality of their life in the future when they can't play football anymore. I always tell players, you know, when you go to college, you're preparing yourself for the day you can't play. And our guys have bought into that, but we've had tremendous support from the athletic department, from the university community. We've had a lot of good coaches, a lot of good recruiters, and we've been fortunate to be able to get a lot of good players and I think have good coaches to help develop those players so that they have an opportunity at the next level.
Right. We were talking earlier, and I'm sure you've been obviously very, very busy, but it was wonderful yesterday to see Derrick Henry rush for better than 200 yards and win the NFL rushing title. What a feather in his cap.
Well, it sure is, and we're really happy for him and proud of him for what he's done. But, you know, we've had, I think, 3 or 4 running backs over 1,000 yards for the season.
Yep.
Linda always does a little scenario of how our players do each week, you know. And
Josh Jacobs.
Mark Ingram, you know, quite a few guys. So we're really pleased with all that.
So bring everybody up to speed on these extra practices that the postseason affords you. We were talking earlier about knocking off the rust a little bit. It's been a while since the team has played a game. And those extra practices, how valuable they are.
Well, I think they're really valuable, especially to the young players. I mean, for us to have 7 practices at home and 5 practices here after a season worth of work, I think, you know, sometimes you never know exactly when it's all going to sort of come together for a young guy, but I've seen a lot of our young players really improve during this time. The thing that always concerns you, you know, when you play a bowl game and you haven't played for a long time is it doesn't affect the skill guys as much as it does the big guys, and you always worry about tackling because you really can't scrimmage or tackle live, and it's a long time in between when you've done that. So those are the things that we really try to emphasize with our players. But the players' attitude has been really good about this game. I think, playing an iconic program, like Michigan, is really something special for anybody. And I think if, we were 50 years ago, playing Alabama is an iconic program, so it's going to be special for their guys too. But 50 years ago, if you talked to your grandmother and said Alabama, Michigan's playing, they'd think that's a pretty big thing. So our guys have been really good about the way they practice, the way they've tried to prepare. You always are interested in, how are you going to respond, when you get disappointed? Is that going to affect your confidence? Is it going to affect your motivation of what you want to try to do and how you want to do it? And our guys have been pretty good in terms of the way they prepared for this game.
Coach, speaking of preparation, how unique is it to prepare for a team that's not in your conference? Every week we're watching film, and you're going to see Auburn come up or Ole Miss come up just from the teams that you watch. But here in Michigan, it's almost completely new, isn't it?
Well, I think that's one of the things that we've always tried to do a really good job of, and I learned this from Bill Belichick, is when you play the same teams in your conference over and over, you keep a sort of a history of what they do and how they've done it, and you don't see a whole lot of change. So you really know how to adjust, and you really learn a lot about them. When you play somebody that you never play, it takes a lot more time to try to develop that. And to have a little more time in this game, especially for the way they play defense, they do a lot of stunning. They do a lot of moving around, really going to challenge our front with their movement and their quickness and how aggressive they are on defense. But, when you have a little more time to prepare for all that, I think it's beneficial because you starts becoming a little clearer, picture of where certain guys line up and what they're going to do from that standpoint, and it gives the players a much better opportunity to be successful.
Coach Josh Gaddis is the offensive coordinator for Michigan. He was on staff last year. So what they're doing philosophically, how similar is it to some of the things you guys did last year, and how difficult has it been for your defense, and what challenges does this provide your defense, having gone against kind of a system that's somewhat similar to what you guys have run in the past?
Well, there are some similarities, in what we do, but, Josh was also at Penn State, which under Joe Moore, who's a coach at Mississippi State. So there's also some similarities in what Mississippi State did. And I still think, Jim Harbaugh is a very good coach, and I still think he has, some of the things that he likes to do in there. So there are some similarities. They do throw RPOs. They do run zone, cut plays and certain things. But they do a lot of different formation variations that we really didn't do here that are challenging for us to adjust to.
How about Shea Patterson, their quarterback? We've seen him at Ole Miss. What does he bring that you recognize and remember, and how much has changed because it's a different team and a different offense?
Right. Well, first of all, Shea's a very talented guy, a very accurate passer. He's got really good hands, very good touch on the ball, very accurate. And I think when he is sure about where he's going and he gets the reads, he can make all the throws. And, he's a good scrambler. He's a good athlete. He makes plays with his feet. And I can see, his development from when he was Ole Miss, the maturity that he's grown, the experience that he's, sort of gained, and how that's affected his ability to be very effective as a player. They've scored quite a few points even against good teams this year, so it's going to be challenging for our defense.
How challenging is it for your defense? Because Michigan is kind of similar to us in the fact they spread the ball to a lot of different people. 4 or 5 receivers, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. A lot of guys are going to get some action. Does that stress your defense out more, or do you just have to focus more on what we're doing?
No, I think we just need to focus on what we're doing and make sure that, you're doing your job. I think that players sometimes, they don't understand that they're committed. They really want to win. Just like we really wanted to win when we went and played Auburn, and we were very emotional, but we didn't execute very well. You got to have commitment to a standard is also important too, which means you're going to play with discipline and have accountability and, do your job well. And you got to be committed to those types of things too. Just wanting to do it is not going to be enough. And I think when you play a team like this, everybody's got to do their job and be accountable and responsible. And that you play together as a team. And I think sometimes our guys feel like, I got to make the play. Well, you got to play your gap. And you got to cover your guy. Don't worry about helping somebody else. So I think that's going to be really, really important in this game because they do spread the ball to a lot of people.
Coach, there have been so many freshmen that have played pivotal roles, especially on defense, because of injury or because of circumstance. But there's been times when there have been 5 true freshmen on the field at a time. What type of growth have you seen from them over the 15 bowl practices with their comfort level with what you guys are doing defensively?
Well, you really can't coach experience. It's just something you got to get. Well, these guys, fortunately or unfortunately, they've gotten a lot of experience over the course of the year because they were forced to play early on, maybe before they were ready to play. They've handled it well. I think they've made tremendous improvement. I think they have a better understanding of what's expected of them, right now. When they struggle the most is when we see something in a game that we didn't practice, which we usually always do. So we have to be able to get them to be more adaptable. And I think when you really understand the basic concepts, which they're starting to do, you can be more adaptable because you can apply something that you already know to something that you're seeing that you didn't really practice.
We're going to break away and take care of some business. When we come back, we're going to go to the phone calls at 877-202-BAMA. And for those of you who are here with us at the Renaissance, there is a microphone right over here to the left. If any of you have a question you'd like to throw at any of the guys up here on the panel, feel free to wander over there. We'll be glad to take your questions as well. We are live tonight on the Citrus Bowl Preview Show presented by Toyota from the Renaissance SeaWorld Hotel in Orlando on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Tua waits in the shotgun. Here's Judy in motion, goes behind Tua and Najee. Now Tua looks right, nothing there, throws long, end zone, Devontae, touchdown, Alabama! Devontae Smith, what a day he is having, a 33-yard masterful reception from Tua Tagovailoa, and Alabama pads their lead. One of 13 touchdown receptions this year for Devontae Smith. As we welcome you back, we are in the lobby atrium here of the Crimson Tide Team Hotel, the Renaissance SeaWorld in Orlando. Hey, by the way, the performance of the week is presented each week on our show by Cooper Tire. Visit CooperTire.com to find your local Cooper Tire dealer. And tonight's honoree is Alabama wide receiver and return specialist Jalen Waddle, who was recently selected as a first-team All-American as a return man by the Football Writers Association of America and by the Sporting News. Waddle, of course, is from Houston, Texas, the 132nd Alabama player to be named to a first-team All-America in school history. So congratulations to Jalen Waddle, and he is your Cooper Tire Performer of the Week. Visit CooperTire.com to find your local dealer. Count on Cooper, an American company since 1914. How about Jalen Waddle, Coach? He had himself quite a season, and Lord willing, more to come this week.
Well, he's been outstanding all year long. He's got a unique ability as a return guy. He loves it. When we put him back on kickoff return, because, Ruggs is pretty good back there on that too.
Sure.
He said, now there's a new sheriff in town. Took it to the house against Auburn. So he really, really loves that part of the game.
Sure.
And he's really become a very effective receiver. I think sometimes when guys are talented as he is, they sort of don't pay as much attention to detail to do things, little things right. But he's starting to grow into all that and really being very, very effective as a receiver now as well.
Coach, doesn't matter where we do the show, there is one constant on this program, and that's tonight's first question. And it's brought to you, as always, by Alabama 811. Remember, folks, always contact 811 before you dig to know what's below. Call 811 or online, visit al811.com. And you know who has found us here in Orlando, Pee-wee from Grand Bay, Alabama. Hello, Pee-wee. Welcome in.
Hey, Eli, how you doing, buddy?
Good, sir. Thanks for calling.
So what's going on, Pee-wee?
Sitting here in a beautiful day, Coach. Just a tad bit on the chilly side. But other than that, a beautiful day, ready to watch some football in the next few days before having to go back to work.
Well, I thought if you were committed to the Standard, you'd be here.
Well, I would, Coach, but I got to work. So, it's a long drive from Orlando to be back to work at 7 o'clock Tuesday morning.
All right. Well, God bless you, boy. I appreciate you. What's going on?
Well, I was just wondering first, just the overall health of the offensive line. If all our little nicks and all that healed up. And secondly, I was thinking about something. On the signs that y'all use, your signage and flashing in signs, with the baseball deal and signs being stolen, do y'all alternate that kind of stuff to change it from people picking up for what you're signaling into the team?
Yeah, we do change it from time to time. We do change our signals from time to time. But, those signs are just formations. Not that I'm giving up any trade secrets here. They're not really plays. So I guess the best that anybody could do, and we have several things that could mean the same thing. So it's a little bit like playing cards. You want to get the right suits and all that stuff, but they don't always match, but sometimes they do match. So, we're always conscious of that. But one of the biggest things, I think that you got to be conscious of that people do is steal your signals on defense as well, because we go pretty fast on offense. So, we can also change up what formations we're being in. So even if they want to try to get the formations from those signs, we also have 3 signalers on the sidelines who are signaling plays. Which one is live, nobody really knows for sure. But I think stealing signs is really something that's more and more prevalent in college football. And I think no huddle has created more of that because everybody's looking at the sidelines. So that gives the other team an opportunity to look at the sidelines as well, where when you signal to a huddle, maybe people didn't do that as much. I know that when I was a defensive coordinator to Cleveland Browns, they used to actually film, the other team would film the signal caller the week before you played them with the scout, match it to your calls on defense or offense or whatever, so that they would have the opportunity to know what you were calling. Mm-hmm. So you just have 3 or 4, I used to have 3 or 4 different signals that meant the same thing. So you were speaking a language not only in English but also maybe French or some other deal where they couldn't pick up on one thing meaning one thing. So, and you got to have a smart guy out there that's picking it up so that everybody gets it right. But it's the way of the world now. I mean, people do that a lot. And one of the things about going fast is it makes it more difficult for the other team to be able to do that.
Sure. Greg, how much of this game is physical and how much is this mental? I mean, you got to be bright to remember all of this stuff.
It's amazing just the amount of information that you have to regurgitate in a short period of time. And I think even more so now, offense has simplified, But defense has become so structurally difficult because of the adjustments that you have to make to unique formations and the tempo. You have to essentially, and I think this is a great way of kind of explaining it, you have to read the entire Cheesecake Factory menu in about 5 seconds and be able to order. It's about what it is. I mean, there's so many things that can come at you, and I think playing defense now, Coach, the emphasis on being intelligent has never been higher.
Yeah, I think, character is the most important thing, because if a guy has character, he's going to be conscientious about learning the stuff that he needs to learn. But, having smart players that are also instinctive is really, really important on defense in this day and age. I'll tell you a story. Tua, I didn't know he did this, but because he's not obviously playing in the game, he stayed in our defensive meeting today. Sat in the back of the room.
Really?
All right, so I'm coaching all these adjustments to two-man stacks where we play and this and that and all that. And he sat on the bus and could not believe all the stuff and all the adjustments that you got to make, and all the coverages and fronts and formations and things that you see. I mean, he was like, and thinking like our offense is simple, and it's really not simple. I mean, when you look at the call sheet that we have, I have trouble remembering, every play, every RPO that goes with every play and all that kind of stuff. And he says, man, it's really complicated to play defense.
Well, I remember when you first got here, and all the defensive players were like, man, this defense is so complicated.
Yeah.
It just small installs. But the good thing I always say on offense is we call the play. We might read a hot or a blitz.
Yeah.
There's not much to it. Defense, you have to react to everything the offense possibly could do. And like you said, the hardest thing right now in the bowl game is they might come out in some new formation we haven't seen all year.
Yeah, well, we've had that quite a few times this year, so it won't be a surprise if they do. But, one of the things that is easier about offense is you initiate the action, so you actually know what you're going to do before the ball snap. Now, you may have to make a read or an adjustment to that based on what the other team does. But defensively, they may have, like we've had as many as 161 formations in a scouting report, that our players have to go through, where you adjust every call to that. If you have 30 or 40 calls, that's a lot of multiples.
It really is. Fellas, I don't know if you can see through the spotlight over to our left, but we have a young lady joining us at the microphone with a question here at the Renaissance. Good evening, ma'am.
Hey, Coach. Do you have someone assigned to analyze the officiating crews, especially if it's a non-SEC crew?
Yeah, what we do is, we always have a staff meeting Saturday morning before the game, and we always have a summary history of the officiating crew that we're going to have in a game, who's in every spot as an official, whether it's the umpire or, the referee or back judge or whoever it is. And we have a list of all the things that they call, because some crews do call things more often than others. Some referees really protect the quarterback, and they call roughing the passer a lot. Some guys call a lot more pass interference than other people. Some umpires call a lot more holding. So we kind of always want to know what's the history of, what these people have done. So we always go over that, and we try to review it with the players, so they're conscious of it. And then we do an analysis as a coaching staff of the officiating, not necessarily to complain about it, because we have a lot of respect for officials and officiating and what a difficult job that is, but it's the only way that they have to try to improve what they do, is if you say, why was this called or why wasn't it called, and then they give you feedback, and sometimes they admit that what they did was maybe not exactly right, but it gives them an opportunity to know, and then it gives you an opportunity to know how to coach the players. I mean, I think, and they're finding this out in the NFL, they have so many replays on pass interference now, because to me that's the most controversial call, and it's also the one that's has the least consistency in how people call it. So you want to know, what can I coach the players to do so they don't get called for pass interference? So there's a lot of things that go, with the game. And just like the targeting that they kicked the guy out, a lot of people probably thought, well, in the Ohio State game, Sean Wade, was that his name?
Yep.
And really, if he would have just kept his face up, they probably wouldn't have called that. All right, but anytime even though the quarterback lowered himself a little bit to protect himself, and the target changed, and if you hit the quarterback in the head, you got a problem, especially if it's the crown of your helmet or your head goes down in any kind of way. But if you know how they're going to call that, for an example, then you really have to coach your players. You got to see what you hit. Keep your face up. Don't put your head down. Don't hit anybody with the crown of your helmet, or you're going to get called. And that's what you try to coach. So you try to take all this information that you can get from officials so that you can coach the players better. And it's good for player safety, number one. But you don't want to get your players in a position where they're getting penalized for something they really didn't know they couldn't do.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, for your question. We're going to break away, guys, and take care of a little business. Tonight's show being brought to you in part by our friends at Coca-Cola. Share a Coke. Tonight's Citrus Bowl preview show, also presented by Toyota and your local Alabama Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. Back with more of your questions for the coach in just a moment here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Welcome back, everybody, as we continue on the Citrus Bowl preview show presented by Toyota. We're live at the Team Hotel, the Renaissance SeaWorld Hotel here in Orlando, Florida. Eli Gold, John Parker Wilson, Greg McElroy is here. Earlier in the show, Rashad Johnson joined us. Again, if you'd like to join us on conversation, 877-202-BAMA. That is the Academy Sports and Outdoors hotline. Greg McElroy, it's great to have you with us here today. How have you found the transition to broadcasting, forgetting whether you work in a Bama game or not? How's it gone for you?
Outside of Coach giving me a hard time, it's been pretty good. Last time he was on this show, I think you referenced me as a guy that was full of a lot of hot air, but it was all in fun.
And he's honest.
I do remember.
He's 100% right.
I remember that comment.
I had to give him a hard time about it the next day, but it's all good. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, I love football. I love football. I'm addicted to it. It's really been a great way to bridge the gap between the business world and the sport that I care so deeply
And I know
for.
you've been assigned to the XFL when it starts in February, so we'll be seeing you right up towards the summertime.
Absolutely.
And he does a really good job. You know, we're
He
proud
does.
of the guy, the way he played quarterback for us and the way he represented the university. And I always tell everybody he never started a game as an undergraduate, which is true, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Graduated in 3 years, started for 2 years in graduate school, so I'm always proud of that as well. But he does a really good job, and we're really happy for him.
Exactly.
Coach, obviously this is a place and a bowl game, frankly, that means a lot to me. This was my final college game, and we took out some pent-up aggression against a Michigan State team that was pretty overmatched. So I guess, what do you think? What has been the approach for your team this year, knowing the disappointment of the Auburn game, and what has kind of been the message to them throughout the last few weeks to try to finish this season off on a high note the way you did with us 8-9 years ago?
Well, I think it's just that. How do you want to finish the season? I mean, you're going to have one or two things happening. You know how disappointed you are about the way the season ended. All right, so you got another opportunity to create a memory in your last game for this team. Whether you're going to come back and play again next year, it's a foundation for what we're going to build on, or it is your last game as a player here, whether you're a senior or a guy that's going to go out for the draft. So what do you want to have, a memory that is a really good memory like we beat Michigan? Or do you want to have a regret, which is what we all are disappointed about in terms of how we played, the game at Auburn and the mistakes that we made and, things that, they played well. They deserve credit. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but when you throw pick sixes on 1st and 2 at the 2 and, and I mean, it's a 14-point swing, it's hard to overcome. And those things are hard to swallow. And I'm not blaming the players. It's the coach's responsibility for all that. So if you want to sort of get rid of the disappointment that you have for the season, and I think it's hard to watch. I mean, when you watch playoff teams, we've been in the championship game 7 out of the previous 10 years before this. And we've been in the playoffs, I think, 8 times. All right, so we're not. All right, so that's disappointing to everyone. And I think, you can say, well, we had a lot of adversity throughout the year. Yeah, we did, but it creates a lot of opportunity for other people and how you're going to respond to that. And I think we could have done better, I mean, even LSU. I mean, we lost the game by 4 points, but we played the worst half of the season in the first half to dig a hole for ourselves that was very difficult to get out of. So now they have all the accolades and all the opportunities, and we don't. So all those things create tremendous disappointment. And the only thing that's going to fix that is that, you go about this game and creating a memory for yourself that is something that you're going to be proud of, because you're going to live with this game for the rest of your life. I always remember the last game.
Yeah.
I mean, when we lose a championship game, it's 6 months of bad thoughts for me. All right, when we win a championship game, I feel pretty good for about 6 months. All right, but when we lose the last game, it's something. I mean, it's something that sticks with you for a long time, and you have a lot of regrets, whether it's the way you prepared, the way you coached the players, and I'm sure they have regrets if they didn't play well in the game. So this is something that creates value for every player. We only have 2 players that aren't playing in the game. I'm really pleased and happy with all the players who decided to play in the game. I think that, I told the players, I said, look, if you're a top 15 pick in the draft, all right, it's a lot of money. I can understand why you wouldn't want to play in a bowl game. But if you're not, it's an opportunity for you to showcase your talents in terms of being able to move up in the draft. And I said, we only have one guy that has that high a grade, and he's not going to play in the game because he's injured. And that injury may affect his grade, unfortunately for him right now. All right, so everybody here on our team has an opportunity to showcase their talents. And do you want the last game that you played in, is that the memory that you're satisfied with, for people to evaluate who you are and what kind of player you are and what they might want to invest in your future? So everybody can benefit from playing in the game, every individual player and everybody on our team. So I've been really pleased with the response of all the guys, and they've had a really good attitude about it as well.
Coach, is that an individual conversation? Is that one with the team or just the draft-eligible guys, or is it a conversation amongst themselves in the locker room?
Well, I tell them all. I mean, I kind of tell it like it is. I mean, and there's no secrets. I mean, I told it to all the draft-eligible players and all the seniors. And so, it is what it is. We appreciate the guys that aren't playing in the game, what they did to represent the program. and we'll be supportive of them as well. But I do think that everybody would have benefited from playing in this game if they have an opportunity to showcase their talents.
Gentlemen, we've got Mark on the phone in Phoenix City, Alabama. Mark, welcome into the program. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you, Eli?
Good, thank you, sir.
Just wanted to let you know I've listened to you ever since I was a little boy. And my dad actually got to meet Coach Saban and Mark Ingram at the quarterback club in Columbus,
Wonderful.
Georgia.
Great. So you talking about listening to
Coach
Eli, or you talking about listening to me since you were a little boy? Because I think we need to clarify that.
Thank you very much, you too, on the end there.
Eli since I was a little boy.
I thought so. I'm happy to hear that. Because my next question was going to be, how old are you?
I'm 46. I'm a
Okay, well, then you-
Alabama fan since the day I was born.
Well,
What's your question?
I know preparing the young guys coming in from high school into football, playing the defense is really, it's more of a step process. Because I played football and had to learn it too. But don't you also, when you get a new coach, throw it in the mix? Don't he have to kind of grow with the team also? And don't you have to kind of like build a relationship with him and get him up to level to run the defenses like you want them ran?
Yeah, I think so. But I think the biggest thing is a coach that's a good coach that can help a player play better. Coaches always respect that. People always said to me, isn't it hard to coach pro players? I never had any issues coaching pro players. I had really good relationships with them, and maybe it was because they thought I was helping them play better, extending their career, they could make more money or whatever. And I don't care what level it is, high school, college, Pop Warner. I mean, everybody respected my dad. He was a Pop Warner coach. All right, so I think if you create value for people and teaching them principles and values that are going to help them be successful, I think they're going to respect you, and it's not going to be a problem. So whether you're a new coach or you've been here for a long time, now systematically, do you have to learn things that, we do the way we do it here? I think absolutely, because we don't change, those things a whole lot philosophically. But I think the biggest thing is people in this day and age have to be able to adapt to players. I think players have changed. And I think they're a little bit a victim of our culture, that we have now, because, and I don't mean this in a negative way, and I think we have to be careful about the way we do things. Are we helping people think that they don't have to compete in a very competitive world? Because perseverance is something that is really, I told the players this the other day. I said, some of you guys are a victim of a permissive society because every time things get difficult, you don't have to persevere. Every time things get difficult, you want to leave and go start over someplace else. Things get difficult, you want to quit. Things get difficult, I'm not going to do this anymore. Well, I think when as parents or as coaches or as anybody, if we don't teach young people the value of persistence, because I don't know I told our players, I said, go to the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. There's not one player in there that didn't have a tremendous amount of persistence, to be able to overcome adversity, to work through difficult times, injuries, whatever it is. I said, Forbes magazine this month has the top 400 richest people in the world. Not one of those people are where they are because they didn't have a tremendous amount of perseverance. So if you're going to be successful in this world, you're going to have to persevere and overcome adversity. And I think that we have to teach young people to be able to do that, because the way we are right now, sometimes it's too easy. We make it too easy for them to do something else that maybe doesn't benefit that.
We're going to come right back. We've got guests here with a question for us that will follow these messages here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. plays to the left side. Starkel stands in, throws across the middle. Ball tipped in the air. It comes down, and it is intercepted by Alabama. Intercepted by Anthony Jennings. It'll be the 8th interception of the year for the Crimson Tide. There's a guy we've not mentioned much of in this show, Anthony Jennings, the senior from Dadeville, Alabama. Number 3 tackler, John Parker, on the ball club. He's had himself a heck of a year.
No doubt. To me, one of the coolest things also is being a elected captain from your peers. So the team goes and elects the captains. Anthony Jennings one, Xavier Kinney was another, Devontae Smith, and, of course, Tua, the 4 team captains. And for me, Coach Saban talked about memories. We didn't win our last bowl game, but one of the things that I still have hanging on my wall is that picture of us being captain. So congratulations to these guys. I know Greg was one also. Really is a huge honor.
It's huge. And I remember going to Denny Chimes on my visit. I think you took me there. And it was one of those things like you walk by, it's like John Hanna, Joe Namath. It's like having your name. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous. And to know that our handprints and these guys' handprints and footprints will be next to them is pretty special.
Like you say, when you're voted upon by your teammates, it's very special. Fellas, again, to our left at the microphone, we have a guest here. Good evening, sir.
Hey, Eli. Coach, my name is Phil Webb, small business owner. Before I get to the question, I was asked to fill in for some people that could not ask you a question. So I said, sure, I'm not going to tell the University of Alabama or you no in anything. But I want to ask you this. With your success of taking young adults and changing their lives for the history of your coaching and still doing that, and a wonderful family that you've got with Miss Terry and son and daughter and second grandchild on the way, and wonderful administration with President Bell and Greg Byrne and Cedric and Ellis Ponder. You're still climbing that mountain, as you say, years ago in that process, and you're so successful. And as you mentioned, things have changed, offense, defense, but it's also changed in coaching. Recruiting is 12 months out of the year. It's not like it was many years ago. How do you find that balance to manage the relationship, the great relationship that you've got with Miss Terry, your children, your grandchildren, second to be? How do you find that time with everything you do to be so good as you are?
Time management. How do you handle that?
Well, first of all, I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for all the things that you mentioned. Miss Terry, great family, grandchildren, all those things are very, very special. The opportunity to be the coach at the University of Alabama with such a great group of people and team of people is a very special thing. And I'm not sure that I always manage it really well. I've always been, very probably obsessive compulsive if somebody ever analyzed it about trying to do things a certain way. Sometimes it's very time consuming. So what I've always adopted and what I've always tried to do is when I do have time is to try to make the most of that time. Because, maybe I don't see my granddaughter for 2 or 3 weeks, but when I do see her, I try to make the most of that time. And maybe it ends up doing things that I really don't feel like doing, but I really think that it's important to do, to have a relationship. So, but everybody that you mentioned makes sacrifices for me. My family, my children, everybody has made a tremendous amount of sacrifices so that you can do what you enjoy doing. And I think you're very fortunate to have people around you that are willing to do that or have learned how to do it, one or the other. But I think they also all appreciate what they've sort of gotten from it all, too, because we've had some great times. We've had some, great victories, and we're very fortunate to have all the things that we have, and we're very fortunate to be able to help other people because of that. So there's a lot more good in it than bad, but I think everybody has made sacrifices to make it happen.
Coach, we're about that time of the show where it's time to hear your final word, which is presented each week by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Well, I think some interesting things. When I watched the playoff games the other night, I didn't see a lot of the LSU game, but I know they had a pretty dominant performance and have a lot of respect for them in terms of, the toughness and discipline that their team plays with. But when I watched the Ohio State-Clemson game, those two teams really played hard. They played with a lot of toughness. It was a very physical game. And you got to ask yourself, are you, and I ask our team this, are you really committed, to being that kind of a football player? Because that's what you have to be if you want to play at that level, and you got to do it on a consistent basis. And I think this is a great opportunity. I mentioned this before. Michigan is an iconic program. They have a great legendary tradition, there. So this is a special opportunity for our team to play. I think a lot of people will be interested in this game. And it's an opportunity for our team to sort of put aside some of the disappointments that we've had, this season. And it's a great opportunity for a lot of our players. But they're going to have to be committed to not just wanting to do it. They're going to have to be committed to being very disciplined in what they do, be accountable to do their job, and affect their teammates in a very positive way if we're going to get, the maximum effort from our team so that we can be successful in this game. And because this will be the last, probably time that I get to speak to our fans and our supporters, I certainly appreciate all that you do to support the program. I know this has been, you have disappointments about how our team does as well. I can assure you that nobody's more disappointed than the players, and we are. But we're also very dedicated to everybody working hard to try to make you proud of what we do, and we certainly appreciate your support, for our team, not just this year, but, in all the years that we've been here. So thank you very much, and roll Tide.
And thank you for your time, all of our Thursday nights together and these special shows. You've been very generous with your time. We appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you, Eli.
All right, Coach. That's Coach Nick Saban. John Parker Wilson, see you in a couple days. Jack and Greg McElroy, you have a good telecast a couple of days from now.
Thanks, Eli.
We're coming right back. There's more from Orlando right after this on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.